Module 13, Part 3, Workplace Ethics. So this lecture, we're going to start by talking about why professional organizations have a code of ethics, or some workplaces have a code of ethics, talk about some ethical dilemmas in general, and then we'll go over some workplace ethics to consider, and then we'll end with some tips from an employer about applying for internships. There are many reasons why a company or professional organization might have a code of ethics. Typically, professional organizations evolve around a given career field, and they develop a code of ethics that's created by their members. This code can further define that career field and give it an occupational identity to distinguish it from other similar career fields. So, a code of ethics typically is going to define what are accepted or acceptable behaviors for people that are in that profession. And these are designed to promote high standards of practice. They can also provide a benchmark for members in this organization to use for self-evaluation. So are they performing their job, their roles within the industry at the level they should be? And again, this framework for professional behavior and responsibilities is an important thing, and especially if a certain profession wants to be seen as respectable and worthy by society. And also this notion of occupational identity. So as certain career fields get bigger, grow, and evolve, and they have professional organizations, once they have this code of ethics, it's a way to say that we have matured. We've gotten to this point where there's a clearly defined occupational identity. So here are some ethical dilemmas. And you can read these questions here. So take a few moments to look at these. And this is just, again, a few examples of ethical dilemmas that you might encounter in the workplace. And so unless a company policy tells you it's okay, all of these items are unethical practices. So when thinking about workplace ethics, it's important to draw a solid ethical line and never cross it. And there's a saying that you may have heard that integrity sold cannot be repurchased. So once you've done something unethical, people's views about you change toward the negative, and it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get that view back to a positive manner. And so integrity means doing what's right, even if it's unpopular, even if everybody else or a majority of other people within your workplace are doing something unethical. That doesn't mean that it's okay for you to do it. And so as you move up through your career, it's really important, especially those first few years, to develop a reputation for honesty and integrity. Part of this includes never using profanity in the workplace, even when others are doing it. Never tell or ignore dirty jokes, racist or ethnic jokes, or sexist jokes. Increasingly in the United States, more employers are training people in supervisory positions to make sure that if a subordinate does or says something inappropriate, that they report that to human resources right away so it can be handled in an appropriate manner. Otherwise, the employee who is the victim of the joke, comment, or trick may be able to file a lawsuit because the company did not handle the hostile work environment or situation quick enough and stop the inappropriate behavior. So not only if you're a victim of a joke or something unethical, but also if you're a supervisor and one of your subordinates is doing this, you have to step in right away. And it's also important to make good on your promises. I think it's easy for people to say yes, that they'll do something frequently early in their career because they want to be seen as a good person and they want to get a lot of stuff done and be seen as very productive. But it's important to understand that at some point it's okay to say no to do something, or say, well, maybe not right now, could I maybe get to it later on, or maybe not this time, but why don't you ask me in the future? Because you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. And so if you are saying yes to lots of tasks, but then you can't complete them on time or complete them at all, then that becomes a problem. Now, if you're not sure if you should be doing something or saying something, don't do it. Listen to your conscience. It's there for a reason. And I think the other thing too, and this has, at least in my case, served me well in my career, is to always seek good in others, and they'll be more likely to find it in you. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't automatically assume that people are bad. Err on the side of people are being good. And when people see that you're that way, it'll be good for you professionally. So previously in this course, we talked about the value, attitude, behavior hierarchy. So here's just a rhetorical question, and that is, at the college level, can you teach someone to be ethical? And we could extend this question out, and some might argue that, do university level ethics programs really work? And so if we think back to the value, attitude, behavior hierarchy, we know that our values are established by the time we're in adolescence, typically 12 to 13 years old. So if we are brought up in an environment where we are taught, or at least observe other people lying and cheating and stealing, in other words, that's an acceptable behavior in the environment we're brought up in, then most likely that's what we will do as an adult. So if someone gets to the college level and they're already unethical, is it really possible to change their behavior? Yeah, we can tell them between right and wrong, but most likely if a person is brought up seeing and learning unethical behaviors, when they're presented with the opportunity to lie, cheat, or steal in their professional and or personal lives, there's a high likelihood that that's how they will behave, even if they've been exposed to ethics training programs through their job or through their university education. So the last two slides here are just some tips for students applying for internships. And this is something that I received many years ago from the human resources director at a major Florida resort that would have lots of students from different universities every summer work. So the first tip here is to have another qualified person proofread your resume and your cover letter. Something we've talked about, really important to have other sets of eyeballs review your materials. Personally or digitally sign your cover letter. That's always important so people can know that you signed it. Use email etiquette and treat your first communication via email as you would your cover letter. It's always important to make a good first impression. So you always want to start on the highest level of professionalism and being tactful, whether that's through an email or a cover letter. And then if the person you're sending it to responds back in a less formal tone, then you know it's okay to take on that less formal tone. But this means always addressing people by their title. So, if it's a professor, a doctor, Mr., Miss, whatever their title is, make sure to use that title. Always start formal. If an employer gives you an offer, make sure to respond in a timely manner. If you need more time to consider the offer, that's okay, because lots of students get multiple offers for jobs or internships. If you've already accepted a position and then you change your mind afterwards, that is not professional. And it's important to keep in mind that that not only reflects poorly on you, but it also reflects poorly on Colorado State University and might affect future students' ability to get jobs with that organization if that organization views CSU negatively. It's always important to get experience in your area of interest, even if it's unpaid. And if you have any certifications, make sure that they're up to date. for that particular area of interest. A common one for lots of jobs that our students get are first aid and CPR. And then always make sure to get some volunteer experience and list it on your resume. And then always contact your references before you send out your resume or before you provide their contact information to an employer who's going to check references as part of the job application process. And always reconfirm their phone number and email address. Sometimes, people change jobs or email changes. Sometimes they get a different phone number. Always make sure to confirm that information. This concludes Module 13, Part 3.